This is the new Tactile Knives Chupacabra. The first knife from Tactile Knives that does not go over the top with milling on the handle, uses aluminum to keep costs down. And here we have MagnaCut. Now, this is not the first time they've used MagnaCut, but this is the first Tactile Knives blade that I have out of MagnaCut, and it's amazing. It is incredible, this knife, especially that blade. But the handle is very interesting too. As you know, I love aluminum handles. I just recently did an entire episode on aluminum handled knives and was so thrilled when I had Michael Miller on from Tactile Knives on the podcast, and he was talking about this coming out a few weeks after that podcast, and it is their first knife that approaches affordable for many people. And it's exciting to have a knife that is a little bit more within reach. And actually, as I'm saying this, I'm going to tell you to go to the website because I can't remember how much it is. This was sent to me by Tactile Knives, and I do appreciate that. That's why I don't remember, because I didn't feel the pain of actually buying it. But that's the whole point of this knife. If you want a Tactile Knife Company knife and don't want to feel the pain, this is the one for you. And actually, in terms of my taste, this is my favorite of their knives thus far. I have a Rockwall. I love that little knife. It is awesome, but you heard me say little. It is not exactly in my wheelhouse. This is way more in my wheelhouse. Also, I love the Bear, but a slip joint knife is never going to be my favorite knife, even though I love them dearly. So this one is the one that's really taken the cake for me. Look at this. I just like looking at that blade. It is wickedly sharp, coarse, and extremely fidgety. No, that's not a shark lock. That's an Superlock by SNECX, the Malaysian knife designer. Malaysian or Indonesian, I'm sorry I messed that up. But I used to follow him on Instagram and watch him in his R&D of crazy new innovations like this lock, the Superlock, which engages with a notch on the tang there, and underneath this upward and backward tilting metal piece here, there's a little notch, a little tab that fits in the notch. You know the story. Tab and notch, lift this back, lift that up, drops out. Of course, it's stopping against that stop pin, and that's what's taking most of the like all of the force. This is just locking it in, but all the force is going into that stop pin. Very fidgety, if that matters to you, which I gotta say, it doesn't. I like to think it doesn't matter to me, but really ends up that it does. I like it. It doesn't. It's not a deal breaker if it's not fidgety, but when something can be closed like this and opened like that, I dig it. Okay, just very, very sharp. All right, I must have used it too much. I was getting like, yeah, there we go, tiny little curly cues. Well, anyway, you get the point. It's super sharp and really fun to use because it glides through material. Thumb stud, you've got jimping up here, and really nice ergonomics. I like the shape of this finger well. It locks you in forward, especially when you have your thumb engaged in that jimping. It pushes you forward in a way almost like a SOCOM. It looks nothing like a SOCOM, so it's counterintuitive, but it kind of has that feel where you've got that diagonal pinch tension that keeps it perfectly in hand. That blade shape, I want to call it an Insingo blade shape because it reminds me of the Chris Reeve knives Insingo. Of course, it's a sheep's foot with a nice center line point and a rising belly. I'm a big fan of that. And then look at that sharpening choil, huh? So also like Microtech, which I mentioned before, the SOCOM has that sort of sharpening choil, or termination to the edge, I guess I should say, as does the Sebenza. So This is an in-house design from Tactile Knives. They have numerous design collaborations. This one is in-house, and I'm curious about this, if this was something that was observed on other knives that they liked, like the Sebenza and the SOCOM, and if it was incorporated for that reason, which is exactly how design works and how it should work. People taking cues from one another and using it, improving it for their own design, and seeing how it lives on. Nice deep carry pocket clip. You got some button screws there. That hasn't been a problem. I like this. You got the one screw there, and then the one you got a hole for access. Very good retention on this. And then, of course, this is smoothed anodized gray, like charcoal gray aluminum. And not that the color matters to the texture, but the texture is perfect for pocketing and unpocketing. It's going to be kind to those ratty old jeans, or even your new jeans that are just ratty because the pocket is messed up from all the clips and texture here. You have really nice wide standoffs, which if you look at your Spartan blades or your Hinderer knives, they have really wide standoffs, and people drive cars over them and stuff like that, and that's what stops these from just getting obliterated. Not sure what the liners are here, but don't care much. Probably steel. Most likely they're steel. You wouldn't put aluminum liners on an aluminum handle. And I don't think they're titanium, because the whole point was to not have titanium here to keep the cost down. And really, it's kind of like when you travel somewhere and you're like, I don't need to spend much on the hotel. I'm just sleeping there. That's what the handle is in a way, because the blade is MagnaCut. It just so happens the handle is awesome. It just so happens that they put a really cool and highly unused, except for in the case of the Civivi lock, on there, the Superlock. But really, this knife is about the blade. And they've given you this wonderful ergonomic handle to hold on to the blade with, if you will. Here's the Fusion Vision FG. I'm sorry. This is the Civivi Vision FG, a SNECX design. So it features his lock, the Superlock here, and you can see how you pull it back, and it sort of lifts it up and back and disengages from that notch. Very fidgety knife. So I guess that's the only knife I would compare that to. They also do the sharpening choil right there. That's a very cool knife, that Civivi. And here we have a, what do you want to call, high-end version of that idea. Oh, by the way, I was holding it like this before and I didn't mention, but it feels so good in reverse grip. Not sure what you're going to need that for with this knife, but if you need it for some reason, you got to get into something, this point here is perfect for arching your thumb over and really getting a wonderful purchase. So a great knife in reverse grip, though I'm not sure why you would need it that way. This way I could see why you would need it in a self-defense situation. And yeah, it's comfortable like this too. It's comfortable like this. Now, you wouldn't want to be doing this all day long, but I have, not with this knife, but I recently used another knife to break down a lawnmower box that was huge. And I found myself doing this a lot. Pickall stab into the cardboard and cutting towards me. I know it's terrible, what do you call it, blade etiquette to cut towards yourself, but I do it all the time. And I make sure that my body is bladed off. I mean, I've done a lot of martial arts, so I'm making sure I'm positioned properly. That's what I'm saying. Not that any of my martial arts involved box cutting, advanced box cutting and all that, but I just kind of know how to keep my way out of a knife on the whole, though sometimes I stupidly cut and stab myself. But in any case, if you were using this, most likely it would be in a utility situation. You're pulling it like this, and it's a great way to power through material. And here it feels good. Feels good in the hand like this. Also, if you needed to defend your life, this would be a great way to do it. Of course, people, I included up until a couple of years ago, thought that a knife had to be like this in reverse grip because you're gonna slash. But really, you have zero range. You have as far as your knuckles, basically, when you're slashing like this. So slashing in a reverse grip with the edge out is for when you've already got his head cupped in your hand, or you are really, really close and you can pull off a slash. Otherwise, you're better off like this, because all of the force that's exerted through stabbing in and pulling is going against the lock bar, not against the lock. You know, when you're doing it like this and something exerts force on the spine of the blade, that blade is going to fold on your fingers because it's relying on the strength of the lock. Whereas you have it like this and you're stabbing down and there's a force that goes against the knife, the blade, it's going to go that way, most likely, and that's going against the stop pin. And that's not going to break. And I'm sorry I went down that alleyway with this. This is very much a daily carry EDC knife, not intended for fighting, but you know, you never know. And so I thought I would offer that perspective. Super smooth on bearings, of course. You saw me doing this before. So this is a luxury item for less. Go check out Tactile Knives. And when I say less, I'm acknowledging the fact that it's not inexpensive, but in their universe, it is. And this is a great knife. So if you're like interested in the Tactile brand and want something robust and really good and want to go in easy, check this out. And they have a new batch coming soon. I know they sold out on the first batch right away. Anyway, I've talked too long. This is the awesome Tactile Knives Chupacabra, sucking blood. Thanks for watching.